grouping, starting fresh with Perkins funding. And hopefully by the time we have this next meeting, we'll have some more information to share with all of you. Melinda, did you have something to add for our introductions?
No, I'll just quickly introduce myself. Hello, everybody. Again, Melinda Schell. I am new to the position. I've only been here, I think, 6 weeks now. And I'm the Perkins Grant Manager, CTE Investment Specialist. And I'm looking forward to working on this project with Art.
Thank you, Art and Melinda. For JDEP sites, how many of you utilize Perkins funds for your CTE program? And I'm gonna, and then feel free to unmute yourself. Or you could place it via chat. How many of you use Perkins?
So I can't chat because I'm on the phone, or I can't use the chat function because I'm on the phone. But for the Yamhill facility and the Dell facility, we aren't using Perkins funds.
Thank you, Christine. And if people are speaking, if you could identify yourself by saying your name, where you come from, and what site. And then apparently, that was Christine from Yamhill and Multnomah, correct? JDEP?
Correct, and also other Multnomah ESD.
Right, because Joy from Multnomah probably for Lynn County said they do participate in MESD Alliance.
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so Lynn County does, but the other 2 counties do not, that are part of MESD. Okay, and it seems Marion County does not, but I thought Marion County did because they're part of the WC consortium with Lord High School. So, okay, I guess not. Okay, anyone else want to share whether they use Perkins funds? No Perkins funds in Douglas ESD for Mount Nebo. Yeah. Okay, so Molly asked, how would we know as a detention facility? You would have, so then for juvenile justice folks, you would have to consult with your school district or ESD people, whether to see whether they're utilizing Perkins funds. Because that is a funding stream that goes to either consortia or school districts or ESDs. And yep, and Art said that he will check on detention facilities and so forth. So it seems like Joy is the only detention facility that uses it, and probably because they're connected on the same facility as Three Lakes High School, which is on Oak Creek Youth Correctional Facility.
That is correct.
Yes. Joy, you want to share some of the wonderful things that you're using with the Perkins funds?
Yeah, we are, right now our program of study is business entrepreneurship. And so some of the things that we are doing is we have heavy equipment operations. We have forklift and flagging certification. We have Adobe, vinyl press, laser. That's about it for right now. Horticulture. So we've got some programs, some partnerships with the Bureau of Land Management where we do reforestation of native seedlings.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to share? No, but the next time we have a meeting, Art and Melinda will hopefully have more details on how to access the funding and so forth. But then there is a needs assessment will have to be conducted. I think that's the base minimum, right, Art?
Yes, that'll be changed around because of the clientele, the participants that we have. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. Thank you, anybody. If you have any other questions, their information is on the screen. Okay. All right. Thank you, Art. Thank you, Melinda. Okay. And then Okay, so we have a new assistant superintendent, or she's an interim until till I think June 30th, and her name is Sarah Green. And unfortunately, she was not able to participate today. She's not feeling well, so she wants to say hi and to introduce herself. But one of these days she'll join us, and she did express an interest in attending a JDEP, LTCT, or YSEP graduation, or visit one of our sites once we're able to visit sites and so forth. So I just want to inform. So then that's who Adam, Julie, and I report to. We right now our supervisor is Sarah Green. Okay. Now next, fiscal allocations for 21-22. Normally this time of year, I would send out the amount for 21-22 for JDEP and YSEP already, but this year we have not. And then I'm phrasing this very carefully. As of right now for JDEP, our revenue sources is strictly ADM times state school fund. We have not been successful in securing supplemental funds. So I know MESC, spearheaded by Stacy Mickelson, has been contacting everybody and kind of giving people a heads up that this might be a reality, and it is, as of right now, it is a reality. And tomorrow's Ways and Means presentation, I believe the legislature will be informed of our situation here. And then here's our can you guys still see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. So you see the
Yes, but it's a
legislative
little
here.
small, Sam.
Okay, so here's a subcommittee on Ways and Means on education, and this was, OD had to submit their presentation on, by that time, and then here's a PowerPoint talking about JDEP. You guys want this bigger, right? Yeah. So here's a PowerPoint presentation for YSEP, LTCT, hospital, youth corrections, JDEP. Here's ours. So this is the governor's recommended budget. This is our limitation. So if you look at basically, everyone knows that we've always been supplementing sites because some of our small sites, they don't generate sufficient ADM to fund a full-time teacher. And I've been advised to not send out our estimate yet, but then the best way to do it is, you got 3.89 and then the ADM can be found on the State School Fund website. State School Fund website. And when you go scroll down to district estimate, this is the district estimate for JDEP YSEP, which is 8,607. So that's one. So roughly 1.5 weight would be like $12,000 or $13,000. So so roughly around $13,000 per, like for Douglas would be 4 and so forth. So we're still we're still trying, but then as of, I know this is late. Normally I would have, your estimates with supplemental funding, but as of right now, we don't have supplemental funding. And the phrase that was given to me was, without legislative assistance, it is what it is. Yeah. And then part of it is because our JDEP and our YSEP historically has been, and I know I set this out, it's our JDEP has been going smaller and smaller every year. And with COVID, it's really bottomed out. So like if somebody asked, what's our estimate for 21-22, it'd be the straight ADM times the per ADM amount and so forth. Any questions or comments? Okay, so people are putting in chat, and then we can't run these programs. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Totally. Yes, we are. Believe me, when you're preaching to the choir, like we are acutely aware that the state school fund generated by this low ADM is not sufficient to fund at least a minimal programs. And it's my understanding tomorrow when ODE presents at the Ways and Means that it's going to be communicated to the Ways and Means that JDEP needs an additional influx of funds. And remember, I can't encourage you to lobby or tell you to lobby or whatnot. It's up to you how you and your school district or JDDA want to proceed and so forth. And I can answer any questions. I can provide data and so forth on that.
Hey, Sam, this is Toby. Are you able to hear me okay?
I can hear you, Toby.
Okay, great. Well, sorry to interrupt you, and I'm looking in the chat. I think I have kind of the same concern. Here in Klamath County, we're obviously, we don't have a lot of students. So budgeting is a concern. And I know our local district is also, down in enrollment. So I'm pretty certain that they would not be interested in, supplementing whatever it would take to get that teacher, full time up there. And so I don't know what the options would be from a school district standpoint. Would it just be, no, we can't do it and it's just not going to happen? Or, I mean, I'm just trying to think of like big picture, how this all could end.
That's a very good question. And Susan put in the chat, that's another, her question is, there'd be no, this would be a reason for a school district to not sign a contract for services. That is true. Every, biennial school districts and ESDs, they have a choice of whether to enter into an agreement with the ODE to provide the JDEP services or whatnot. And if, unlike hospitals and unlike LTCT, the school district where the facility resides is not responsible for education. It's ODE. Like for LTCT site, if the ESD didn't want to do it or whatnot, then the school district where the facility LTCT or hospital resides would have to do it. Would have to provide the education. But for JDEP and YSEP, there is no requirement where if no partners are located or attained, then the school district where the facility resides has to provide education. There is not. Yeah. And then Brian asked, what's the cutoff date for non-renewing our contracts? That's a good question. And Mary wanted to know stimulus funds. We'll talk about ESSER later on and so forth. But yeah, as of right now, yeah, our JDEP, yeah, so this is the thing. We submitted a policy option package asking for general funds because LTCT also has general funds, but then our request was not included in the governor's recommended budget. So yeah, and because we're employees of the executive branch, I am supposed to advocate for the governor's recommended budget. I can't tell you guys to lobby for additional funding sources or whatnot, And to be honest with you, my wife and kids like our lifestyle, so I need to stay employed. So I have to follow our orders. Any other questions or thoughts? And we always knew that this day would be coming, but I didn't think it was going to come this quickly. Every year we say, you're supplemented, but then, as to our ability. So, yeah. Any other questions or comments?
Looks like Mr. Goodwin has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't see the whatchamacall hands. Feel free to chime in. Jim?
Yeah, Sam, you were talking about lobbying or whatever, just for whatever it's worth. OJDDA will have written testimony prepared as well as verbal testimony throughout the process. So we've been really engaged. And so we'll see how that goes. But our organization is definitely ready to advocate, as we always have, but we'll see what happens there.
Right. Yes, and then throughout the years, the Oregon Juvenile Directors Association has been, we work not closely, but we've been supportive of each other's efforts and so forth. Yeah. Thank you, Jim. Any other questions or comments? And then I did have interactions with Gary Peters, but then it was on the LTCT side. It was not on the JDEP site for from OAESD. So and we've had conversations with COSA, but it's on LTCT, not the JDEP. So yeah, but hopefully this will get to their level too. Yes, because. And to frame the situation, like for LTCT, generally it's like 40 million per biennia. JDEP is roughly about like 2 million, and YSEP's about 5 million. So unfortunately, the LTCT plight has risen to others' attentions, but JDEP, YSEP, not as much. But I think it will now that people are aware of our plight. Yes, this is not equitable. And we've always known it's not equitable for JDEP, especially when YSEP receives 2.0 ADM and JDEP receives 1.5 ADM. And we're dealing with pretty much the same type of students. So that's why that just in itself, the statute is inequitable.
I'm not even meaning that. I'm meaning like we're having conversations about like racial equity and like that's the push, and there's disparities in all of these programs. We know that, and we're not supporting students in the way that we should. It's frustrating. It's frustrating to be pushed in that way on one part of my job, and then this part of my job, oh, but we're not going to support and fund the programs where we need to support these students the most. So they're either not reoffending or it's just frustrating to me. But everybody here knows that. I'm just having a moment of frustration today coming from an equity seminar to this.
Any other comments or suggestions or feedback? And the comments and suggestions and questions are really good. Okay. So basically, if you wanted to, calculate how much you would get, like roughly like 12,000 times your ADM, your current column P, that would be your amount.
Hey, Sam,
Yes.
this is Mary. What are your thoughts about going before the legislature tomorrow? Do you have any hope for that, or is it going to be more of the same?
It's my understanding tomorrow in the legislature, the PowerPoint presentation that was submitted earlier, there, like this is the presentation for everybody. Like when I mean everybody, all of the programs for a lot of us. Like as you could see, like there's like they go into like the 80s, like I think like 113 slides. It's my understanding that additional slides will be added into the presentation to communicate our plight for JDEP, and then to inform the Ways and Means Subcommittee on Education that additional resources are needed. Yeah. And it's just not for our this is not our slide just only for us. It's also for like child nutrition, and it starts off with Educator Advancement Council and so forth. There's a whole bunch of slides and presentation, and so forth. But then we are a small part of it, our program. So it's my understanding that some slides will be added in, or revised, to inform the legislature.
Sam, I can't hear you.
Okay, Joy. So, okay, so yep. So the legislature will be informed, and then some slides will be added in.
Hey, Sam, can I ask another question?
Sure, Mary.
Okay, so we're clearly going to have significantly reduced funding. That looks like staff are going to be cut at least in half or more. Are you considering adjusting your contract, or are you going to have the same requirements with staff that's cut in half or more? Or I'm talking about the 5.5 hours, 220 days. I don't think that we could feasibly do that with 1 or 0.75 of a person in the facility.
The quick answer to that is no, Mary, because of the fact that one, the OER specifically states we have to provide 220 days of instruction, per year, but then and the instructional hours are also in OER. So, but our hope is that that additional funds will be allocated to JDEP, for to sustain our current service level. That's our hope.
Sam,
So Joy can't hear me. Can others hear me?
Sam,
Yes.
this is Molly. So OJDDA, I know we are having a conversation during public hearing and have submitted testimony. Are any other groups, such as the JDEP education providers, so I know you are supporting the governor's budget. I appreciate that completely. But I'm just curious, amongst the others in the group, I think Multnomah ESD actually put a legislative concept forward. Kind of curious as to where those are at. And if you can't talk about that on this conversation, Sam, that's fine. I just think it would be this group together may want to find a time to talk about it.
Does somebody from Multnomah ESC want to speak to that? Provide an update?
So Dawn, who is the principal for John L. Long, did speak before a legislative council a little bit ago, like a couple weeks, probably just over a month ago now, about some of the concerns. And I know that there are conversations going on with Stacy Michelson connected to this topic. And I can certainly set up time to talk to people offline if you would like.
This is Brian Henson at the Douglas ESD. I'd like that very much. I know I've talked to Stacy and have been working on some things with her, but I think it might be a good idea for those of us who want to get together in a separate meeting.
I'd appreciate that too. Really, Gretchen, I think to your point, I mean, these are the kids that are most high at risk, most underserved. And when we're talking about social, racial, and political justice, this is definitely a piece that's important.
I'll put my email in the chat if you want to just shoot me an email, and I'll set something up.
Thanks, Christine.
And somebody asked in the chat, how do I go about sharing my thoughts with the legislature? And my response would be, like, if you're gonna share as an employee of a school district or ESD, my recommendation would be to follow your school district or ESD's policies and procedures. But if you want to go as a private citizen, I think there's on the Oregon legislators' websites, there's email addresses that you could share. I mean, you could send your thoughts to. Any others? I know people weren't expecting this because through all these years, we're able to, supplement the small sites, but it's finally come to a point where we cannot supplement JDEP for, as of right now, for 21-22. Okay, And next, we're going to go to the next item on our agenda is the ESSER funds. Okay, so for ESSER, the first ESSER funds were very minimal, so it didn't go through our JDEP contracts. But from preliminary estimates for ESSER 2, it might be a significant amount larger. So we don't know how it's going to go through. We don't have finalized numbers yet. And hopefully we'll have those probably next week or in 2 weeks. But we are looking at perhaps a significant amount of ESSER 2 funds. And we don't even have estimates for ESSER 3. And ESSER 3 is, from the stimulus that hopefully, that might pass today and President Biden might sign. But then for ESSER 2 funds that President Trump did sign in December, we do have estimates for JDEP and YSEP LTCT. It could be a significant amount more, but we don't know. We're going to meet and discuss how to send it out. And for those of you that were around back in the ARA days, American Investment Revitalization Act, during Obama, there was some fiscal reporting. There might be some federal reporting for the ESSER funds too. So, yep. So keep an eye out for an email from myself or Adam or Sarah Green in about a week or two regarding ESSER funds for our programs. Any thoughts on the ESSER funds? Okay, thank you. Okay, so next, and then someone asked, what if our meetings could have a short section for other sites to ask, Q&A for other sites to ask how things are going, how are you doing this, how are you doing that, and so forth. So I put it on the agenda like an open forum for like if MESD wants to ask a question of WSC how they do things, or from Josephine County asking Klamath County how they do things, and so forth. So I added that to the agenda. So open forum. Does anyone have any questions to ask other JDEP sites on how they're operating or things? It's crickets. Okay, if not,
Sam?
So Sam,
Yes. I always have questions, so I was being really quiet for as long as I could. But I guess I have a question. How often do you have this statewide kind of JDEP meeting?
About once or twice a year. It's not regular, unlike LTCT. And the reason why is because for JDEP, it's very it's more independent, it's more localized than YSEP, because YSEP, they're all with the YA and the kids enter, go, and so forth. But for JDEP, but then that's why now I'm gonna try to have more frequent, JDEP meetings. And then what I hate to do is to have meetings just to have meetings, and so forth. And then a lot of times I do communicate via email, to the JDEP contractors and so forth, like updates, because it's not like I want to wait until the next JDEP meeting to inform people. And I do know I email a lot, and then some people said, Sam, no one pays attention to your email. So I said, oh, okay, but it is what it is, right? That's the truth. I do email about, like, I bet you Mr. Jim, it's another email from Sam, whatever, right, Jim? So
I read your email, Sam. Well, most of the time. So I guess the curiosity is I feel like we're in silos sometimes. And Sam, you and I happen to sit on the detention guidelines together, which a huge chunk of that is around education. And so I just am curious as to, from the education partners, just how much they've been involved with some of kind of those components for our JDEP programs.
And that's something, you know, others could answer, you know, and for instance, like, you know, like for instance, like at Klamath, I think Klamath and Toby and I and Mr. Goodwin, we have a good relationship. Not Dan Goodwin, you know, we interact well together, right, Toby?
Absolutely. And, you know, we've been doing this together for a long time, Sam. I was, just so you guys know, I was the teacher at JDEP for 10 years. And then I moved into this role in the alternative school. And so now that's kind of under my umbrella, among other things. But yeah, we've always had a great relationship, Sam.
Right, and even with Toby's predecessor supervisor, but then Molly, to your point, it's like I have great relationships with North Wasco School District and but then it's not North Wasco School District having a relationship with Klamath. Like, you know, I think that's what you're alluding to.
That's what I'm alluding to is the cross. We have great relationships, but just the cross piece of it. I was just curious. It was more than anything.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And then that's something we could probably help foster, you know, and so forth. Yeah. Yeah. Like, as Gretchen mentioned, she would love to talk across regions to get more ideas and share resources. And for instance, like Kojak, you know, that in it, like Jeff and I every so often have Jeff Milligan, you know, we have conversations, you know, about certain things. And we just talked yesterday and so forth about, you know, the grant YDD is providing and so forth. So yes, it's perhaps more regionalized. And then it's hard because there's only 12 JDEP sites too.
And truly, Sam, that's where I was going with was the new grant, the new program through YDD. That is exactly where I was wanting to seek out ideas. So thank you.
Yeah. And then Molly, someone else asked in chat whether the detention people are also invited to the JDEP emails, because some of them are, like you, and they are invited. Whether they participate is up to them, because I emailed both the detention managers and the juvenile directors, but everyone is busy. So someone asked, you know, do others, you know, do not just education staff, but do others participate too, like the juvenile justice people? And then in looking at today, there is a good number of juvenile justice people. Yeah. Okay, any other questions? No?
So I don't really have a question. It's more of a comment. And many of you might be familiar with this because I know you, Sam, have shared out a little bit. But the National Partnership for Juvenile Services has an education group subcommittee, and they are looking on a national scale about what makes good education programs, particularly in short-term facilities. And they're actively seeking people to be part of that. So if you're interested in having a voice outside of Oregon or influence in Oregon, I would just say feel free to reach out to me or Sam, because I think he also sits on it.
Yep, and if you want, I could send you their contact information. Email me separately, and I'll send you their contact information on how to get involved. And it's spearheaded by a principal from Lincoln School District in Nebraska, not Lincoln County, Oregon, from Lincoln County School District in Nebraska. He's a really wonderful guy. Yep. So that's the only thing, like people may think when they see the email Lincoln, but it's not really from our Lincoln County, Oregon. It's from Lincoln, Nebraska. Yep. Okay, without further ado, so here, and then I'm recording, I forgot to mention, I'm recording this webinar, and then just like our other meetings, like our May 20 JDEP meeting, the recording is posted here, and so forth. So I will send out the PowerPoint presentation afterwards, and then the PowerPoint presentation has the link and so forth. So yep, people view this is the location for LTCT and JDEP meetings. Yep. And the LTCT meeting is tomorrow. Yep. And so these are the bills that we're tracking within our office. This is Senate Bill 231, stating that we are to make recommendations for funding for YSEP JDEP. And oh darn, I thought I made this. So, and then They want, if this passes, they want our recommendations by September. So if this passes, we might convene some quick meetings during the summer and so forth to make recommendations for, you know, for YSEP JDEP if this passes and so forth. Yeah. And it's asking, and then it's not asking for, you know, stakeholder input, but of course we'll ask for stakeholder input and try to get people involved. But if this passes, we have to give them our recommendation by September 1st, which is kind of fast. Yeah. And then here's another bill we're tracking to for education pathways. This is like alt ed and so forth. And it includes YSEP JDEP. And reminder, JDEP and YSEP, we're not alt ed, we're a separate program. So here's JDEP and youth corrections and their other alternative pathways. Yeah. And this is House Bill 3236. And a bill that's for LTCT related that we are tracking is creating a new program called Qualified Treatment Programs. And here's the bill for LTCT, and I'll talk about this tomorrow, but they're creating a separate new program in the LTCT statute. But in reality, it'll only impact a single school district because to qualify, you have to have been receiving funding this school year, and you have to have 15,000 ADM or less. So this is a program for only one school district, one LTCT site. And then that's our, those are the bills that we're tracking. And no one else asked for agenda items. Does anyone have any questions or comments? And Brian, here's this, so when we have LTCT meetings, as soon as I log off, cancel the meeting, my inbox will be flooded. You know, I'll get email questions or and so forth. That's just how it is. Does anyone have any questions or any other comments or anything? Okay, so someone asked, can we roll over funding for this year if we have extra for our own sites? No. All of our, because all of our contracts end June 30th, 21, we are not able to carry over into the next year. And then that is one of the things that we're working with for the ESSER funds. We're trying to work out a way so that for the ESSER funds, you will be able to carry over onto the next school year. You know, but then the complexity is, suppose for Mount Nebo, Douglas ESD is our current provider. But we have to put safeguards in place. So if Douglas ESD is not our provider for the next biennia, they don't have access to ESSER funds and so forth, because we also don't want, we have to have those things in place. Yeah, so it's not where our current agreement funds, if you have leftover, you can carry over into the next biennium. No, you can't. Sorry. Other questions? Justin Llewellyn, do you have any questions? He always says, Justin always has good questions, right, Justin?
I'm sorry, Sam, I don't have anything today. At least not on this topic.
Okay. Yep. And then, as you know, many of you email me, call me and so forth on a variety of things. Yep. So continue to call me, email me if you have any questions. But then, you know what? If you have really tough questions, send them to Julie Clements. Yeah, send it to Julie Clements.
That's all right. I can still go to Sam for the answers. It's all good.
Yeah. Okay. If there's no other questions or comments, and then hopefully at the next meeting, one, we'll have more information on ESSER, and two, we'll have more information on Perkins for you, and hopefully we'll have better news on the fiscal outlook for 21-22.
Thank you, Sam.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to stop sharing and stop the recording.